My name is Julian, and I'm an archivist, or at least I was. My life has been a quiet affair, a love story written on brittle paper and dusty microfilm. I find solace in the forgotten corners of history, in the stories that cities tell when you peel back the layers of concrete and steel. My specialty is cartography, the art of maps. To me, a map is not just a guide, it's a snapshot of a city's soul at a single moment in time. My obsession began with a single beautiful map of my city, hand-drawn in 1888. It was a masterpiece of ink and parchment, detailing a place of gaslight and horse-drawn carriages. For months, I dedicated my evenings to a personal project, overlaying this historical document with modern satellite imagery. It was a digital seance, a way to speak with the ghost of the city. And that's how I found the Anomaly, a short cobblestone street that, according to the 1888 map, should have been nestled between what were now two gleaming skyscrapers. It was a cartographical impossibility. The old map called it Lamplighter's Walk. The modern map called it nothing at all. It simply wasn't there. This was the kind of mystery that an archivist lives for. It gnawed me for days. Was it a draftsman's error? A planned street that was never built? Or had it been so completely erased by a century of progress that not a single brick remained? That night, driven by a curiosity that had long since learned to override common sense, I went to the location. As the map predicted, there was no street, just a narrow, suffocating alley between the two glass towers, a dead end filled with overflowing dumpsters and the damp, sour smell of urban decay. The roar of the city was amplified between the brick walls. It was a place to be ignored, to be forgotten. Disappointed and feeling foolish, I was about to turn back when I noticed something about the brick wall at the very end of the alley. In the harsh glare of a security light, it seemed flat, too perfect. The mortar was seamless, the bricks without a single chip or crack, unlike the weathered walls beside me. I reached out my hand, half expecting the cold, rough texture of brick. Instead, my fingers met a strange resistance, like pushing against a thick, cold liquid. I pushed harder. The wall shimmered, and with a low groan that seemed to come from the air itself, it dissolved. The alley, the dumpsters, the city noise, it all vanished. I stumbled forward from the loud, bright present into a thick, cold fog and a silence so profound it felt like a physical weight. The air was heavy with the smell of damp earth, wet stone, and the faint, acrid tang of coal smoke. I was standing on a cobblestone street identical to the one in the image you see. It was a perfect, impossible recreation of the 1880s. Old wrought iron gas lamps lined the path, their lonely, flickering flames casting pools of sickly yellow light onto the wet stones. The buildings on either side were dark monoliths, their windows like vacant eyes staring into the oppressive gloom. The street stretched forward into the fog, the lamps getting smaller and smaller until they were just pinpricks of light in the distance. I had found Lamplighter's Walk. My archivist's instincts, the very core of my being, screamed at me to document this. I pulled out my phone, my modern tool against the darkness of the past. The screen remained black. It wasn't a dead battery. The device felt cold, inert, a useless slab of glass and metal. The 21st century had no power here. A deep, primal dread, the kind that starts in the pit of your stomach and spreads like ice through your veins, began to take hold. This place was not just old, it was fundamentally wrong. I took a few tentative steps, my footsteps echoing with an unnatural clarity on the wet stones. The silence was the most terrifying part. It wasn't just quiet, it was a heavy, oppressive void of sound pressing in on me, making the blood roar in my ears. I passed under the first lamp. The light was a sickly, jaundiced yellow. It didn't warm my skin. It seemed to draw the warmth out of me, leaving me chilled to the bone. I shivered, pulling my coat tighter, the simple woolen fabric feeling like a pathetic shield against the profound cold of this place. I examined the buildings more closely. They were Victorian in design, with ornate, crumbling facades, yet there was no dust, no decay. It was as if the street was preserved in a state of perpetual dying twilight. I ran my hand along a stone wall. It felt smooth, cold, and felt strangely unreal, like touching a photograph. I peered into one of the dark windows. I expected to see the reflection of the gaslight of my own pale face, but there was nothing. It was a perfect, matte blackness, a square void that seemed to drink the light around it. I felt a dizzying sense of vertigo, as if I were staring into an infinite abyss. I recoiled, stumbling back into the center of the street. That's when I heard it, a sound so out of place in the crushing silence that it made me gasp. A soft, rhythmic, and utterly methodical sound carried on the thick, swirling fog.
Far down the street, a figure emerged from the gloom, a silhouette against the distant, hazy light of the next lamp. It was tall and impossibly thin, its form lost within a tattered, old-fashioned greatcoat that seemed to flutter even in the still air. It carried a long, slender pole over its shoulder. It was a lamplighter. The figure moved with a slow, deliberate grace, a horrifying parody of a forgotten profession. It stopped at each lamp, its movements precise and ritualistic. It would raise its pole, and the flame within the lamp would flare for a moment, burning brighter and with a strange, almost violet hue. It was getting closer. Every instinct screamed at me to hide, but there was nowhere to go. The doors of the buildings were solid, featureless slabs of wood with no handles or knobs. The windows were black voids. I spun around, thinking of the alley, the way I came in, but it was gone. The street behind me was identical to the street ahead, a long, dark corridor of whetstone and hungry lights, walled in by an impenetrable fog. I was trapped in a place that shouldn't exist. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the oppressive silence. The lamplighter was now only 3 lamps away. Its slow, unhurried pace was more terrifying than any sprint. It was inevitable. It was the clock ticking down to a final, unknown moment. As the figure reached the 3rd lamp, it stopped. I watched, frozen, as it raised the long pole. The tip touched the glass. The flame inside flared with that unnatural violet light, and as it did, a strange, dizzying sensation washed over me, a profound and sudden pang of loss that had no source. I felt lighter, emptier. I tried to ground myself, to think of something concrete. I tried to remember the name of the street I live on, the number of my apartment. The information was simply gone. Not forgotten in the way you forget a name on the tip of your tongue, but absent, a hole in my mind, a perfect, clean void where a fact used to be. Panic, cold and sharp, finally broke through my paralysis. This thing, this street, it wasn't just a place, it was a trap. The lamplighter wasn't just lighting the lamps, he was feeding them. And I was the fuel. I turned and ran, my feet slipping and sliding on the slick, uneven cobblestones. I ran deeper into the fog, away from the methodical tapping that seemed to echo the frantic beating of my own heart. But the streak was a cruel illusion. It stretched on forever, an endless, repeating nightmare of whetstone and flickering, hungry lights. The fog swirled around me, cold and damp, muffling the world, isolating me in my terror. As I ran, my eyes darted to the windows of the dark buildings, and I saw them more clearly this time. In almost every window, there was a face, pale, translucent, and utterly blank. Men, women, their features slack, their eyes wide and empty, staring out into the fog, then watched me pass without a flicker of recognition, without a hint of emotion. They were like photographs left out in the sun, their colors and details bleached away until only a faint outline remained. They weren't ghosts, they were archives. Empty files. They were the street's previous visitors, and I was watching my own future. The sound was right behind me now. It had lost its rhythmic grace. It was a predator, menacing beat. I risked a look back. The lamplighter was just a few feet away, its thin frame looming out of the fog. I could see the tattered, threadbare edges of its coat, the gnarled, pale fingers wrapped around its pole. It still paid me no mind. Its attention focused entirely on the next lamp in the sequence, the one I was standing directly beside. I froze, my breath catching in my throat, my body refusing to obey. I was paralyzed by a terror so profound it felt like my bones had turned to ice. The lamplighter stopped. It raised its pole, the end of it glowing with a faint, ethereal light that pulsed in time with my own frantic heartbeat. It touched the flame inside the glass casing. A wave of nausea and vertigo, 10 times stronger than before, crashed over me. It felt like a hand, cold and sharp, was reaching directly into my mind, into the very core of my soul, and pulling. I felt a memory being ripped away from me. A beautiful, cherished, foundational memory. My mother on my 5th birthday.
the warmth of the sun on my face in our small backyard, the sweet, cloying taste of the cheap chocolate cake, the sound of her laughter as I blew out the candles. It was all being siphoned away, torn from me with an almost physical violence, leaving a gaping, bleeding wound in its place. The flame in the lamp flared, burning with a brilliant, blinding violet light, and as it did, the lamplighter slowly, deliberately turned its head to look at me. Its face was a smooth, featureless expanse of pale, waxy skin. There were no eyes to see me, no nose to smell my fear, no mouth to scream, just a blank, horrifying canvas, an empty slate where a face used to be. I wanted to scream, but the part of my brain that knew how was already gone. I wanted to cry, but the memory of sadness was being pulled away. I just stood there on that impossible street as another memory was pulled from me, and then another. My first love, the feeling of her hand in mine, my greatest academic achievement, the pride and relief. My name, Julian. It felt foreign, a word without meaning before it, too, was plucked from my mind and fed to the flickering, hungry lights of Lamplighter's walk. I am still here. I think this street is my only reality now. The fog, my only companion. Sometimes I see a new figure, stumbling out of the fog, their face a mask of confusion and wonder, a phone held in their hand like a useless talisman. They are watching me. I am standing in a window now, my face pale and translucent, my eyes wide and empty. I watch them as they begin to walk, and I listen. I listen for the familiar, rhythmic sound that I know will come for them soon, too. The sound that is the only memory I have left.